We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IB Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey. I speak from the role of a patient and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm Michelle Harvey, your other host. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak in the role of a caregiver on this podcast. And before we discuss today's topic, we can share. I think you guys might be interested in what we did in the past couple weeks because it has
Might
been
be
2 weeks
very busy.
and it's crazy, actually. So we took a vacation.
Yeah, we took a vacation to
We went to Cambria,
mm-hmm.
Cambria,
Cambria. I
however
think
you
it's
want to pronounce
Cambria,
it.
but
Yeah, it's a coastal town in central California.
very relaxing.
It's the best. And so we just went for just a few nights and kind of, did a refresh, restart.
Very nice.
Yeah, we had a room on the beach so we could hear the waves at night, and
It's
it was
fun.
just so relaxing.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. And then after that, it was my birthday, and we went to Club 33
33.
at Disneyland for my birthday, which was
Very fun.
amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We feel so lucky to be able to do that. So we did that. Then we also stayed the night at the
Hotel.
Grand Californian.
As Grand
Yeah.
California, yes, the
Mhm.
best one.
And we watched the newest, it was 2023 Haunted Mansion
Oh yeah, the
on
new
Disney
one.
Plus. Yeah, we watched that while we were there, and
It's a very good one.
highly recommend it. It's this time right now when we're filming, it's October, and so it's a perfect time to watch it. You can watch it anytime really, but it's perfect right now. So if you enjoy the Haunted Mansion ride, and I think you'll really like this movie. So
And it's my grandma approved.
yeah, she came and watched. She went with us. She had her own room, but we all went to our room and watched the movie, and
That was
had
fun.
had a cake. A surprise cake was delivered in the room while we were at Club 33, and
She
so
came back and she's like, "Oh my God, what, who surprised us?" And
I
she
know.
opens the card and it's all the people who were down at the front desk and
Yeah, they surprised us, and it was a Mickey Mouse cake. It even had a tail.
yeah, it was so cute.
It was super cute. So that was great. And then last night, so I'm still a little tired, but we had
And you both are.
yeah, and we went to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation Gala, which is the Champions of Hope Gala,
Mhm.
and that was in Encinitas, so that was very close to us, so we didn't have to go far. And it's in a beautiful location on the beach. We've had some really just been spoiled the
Yeah,
past couple weeks.
very.
This is not how it normally is for us.
Then Cambria, then the
It's
hotel, then this.
within 4 weeks, all of this.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
And
So
then next week I'm getting my infusion. So
yeah,
well, the week this will be posted,
yeah,
but that's next week.
you'll have had it by the time this is posted. So yeah, so back to real life.
Yeah.
So we got to have, and I mean, normally we don't do like a whole lot of like like galas and vacations and things, but it all hit at once. It'd be kind of cool to spread it out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was like one in the winter, one in the spring,
It's all at once. It's kind of tiring, but
it's over, and you're like, oh, but
can't complain.
now we're discussing Halloween, and so now we're figuring all that out. So anyways, that is what we have been up to. I don't think we necessarily, well, me probably look totally refreshed. I mean, I got older since you last saw me.
Oh, oh, we all did. Everyone ages.
Yeah, but I mean, like literally because of my birthday. So yeah.
Just by one
Thank
year.
you. Thank you. I do appreciate that because yeah. So anyways, a little tired, but we're gonna do something because one of the reasons why I think this is kind of fitting is I believe it's October 20th through the 26th is Invisible Disease Awareness Week. So not just for Crohn's disease or IBD, but for just invisible disease
in general.
In general, yeah, which is important. And I think what is so difficult, even with IBD, sometimes it is visible. Like sometimes you can see someone's hair might be falling out. They might have lost weight. They might have, moon face from prednisone. They might be in a wheelchair because their arthritis is so bad. So you might sometimes physically see it, but a lot of times
You can't.
you don't. And so the crazy part is there's a lot of judgment made not only from the outside community who may not have it, but also from within the community. Because what I think is interesting is just like you in the beginning,
Mhm,
I based a lot of my knowledge on Crohn's disease on your experience.
mhm.
And I kind of thought everyone else was having the same
Problems.
problems and
Yeah.
experiences. And it really took some time and kind of education and listening to other people to realize
No.
no, it's not always the same. And so so today's focus of the podcast is, why can Crohn's disease look so
Different
different
for everyone.
for everyone? And of course, we don't have the answers, just like doctors and scientists don't have the answers, but it's kind of a fitting question because last night at the gala, it's something that is always
Talked about,
discussed.
yeah.
Yeah, and, like, even how hard it is to diagnose because the diagnosis process, the symptoms can look different, and so it's come a long way, but I think it's still got a very long way to
To go.
go and to figure out. So, part of it is, and when we start figuring out why it could be so different is in conversation, we tell someone, "Oh, Mason has Crohn's disease," and here we're like, "Duh, duh, duh," like, "Crohn's disease," like, and they're
And
like,
they're like, "Okay."
okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Our neighbor has it and they don't eat gluten and they're
And they're
doing
like,
great. And you're like thinking, wait, this is like a serious he's been hospitalized for 2 months. He had blood transfusions. He was
"How
very
is that
ill.
the
He
same
still is.
disease?"
Yeah. And I'm like, what? And your neighbor has it? Like, and so it was kind of confusing. And I started thinking, are they
At
talking about
first.
IBS or
Yeah.
and thinking it's IBD or something, but no. And then certain times people with ulcerative colitis would tell Mason, like, oh, it's going to get much better. You can
Yeah.
go onto a diet that's going to put you into remission. And it was
Yeah,
like, wow.
sadly.
And so, yeah, so it's not just, and then it's not just people outside, it's people even within the community who kind of like what we did at first, what we might have even been guilty of
Mm,
is you just go from your own perspective. And so I think it is really important to listen to other people with this and hear them out. And I mean, the other thing you always hear too, and this is crazy, and this could be from people who are very familiar with Crohn's,
mm.
they'll tell Mason, maybe you'll grow out of it. Right? You hear
Yeah, we all
and we kinda sit there and we're like, "Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm,"
maybe.
because at first it was like, I would try to be like, "Oh, no, and this is why," and then I started realizing a lot of times, you can over explain and some people just don't care, but it's just it's amazing though how many people think that Crohn's is, like, something you'll just
Curable.
grow out
Yeah,
of.
or just grow out of, like
Right.
yeah.
Without
That'd be nice.
realizing that it's more chronic and more difficult for
Mhm.
kids
And
with this disease.
progressive,
Aggressive.
so it's not
So
gonna get better as time goes on,
no, no. And so
unless you're on
that was
treatments.
also something that was kinda like, okay, so why would you think you can grow out of it?
Mm,
And you have to be very careful, how you're masking symptoms. And as long as you're doing this under the guidance of a doctor and this is a plan, that's one thing. But giving advice to other parents or even adults, you just have to remember that just because it worked for you, there's no need to get an argument and both of you battle back and forth about what's
mhm.
gonna work because it's like, hey, do you guys both realize something different
Yeah, respect
works for each
everyone's
of you?
treatments.
Yeah, so start to do that. Just like with diets. Um, I used to get so frustrated at that, but then I'm realizing some people just change their diet and it does seem to work for them. But how can it be the same disease?
Mhm.
How can it? Because
How
it's an
can
autoimmune
something
disease,
Yeah, how can something be so devastating to
right?
where it can just take you out for 2 months and then
Yeah,
for, like, 2 years after that, not as bad, but you're still kind
right.
of
Struggling with
struggling,
it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then it takes so long to figure out what works, and not all treatments work the same, and people can fix it with just a diet, and some
right.
people have to be on steroids, treatments, getting
Surgeries.
IVs, all
Mhm.
that stuff, you know?
So
How is it all the same?
it's very confusing, and I just, and part of that, like, we really think that at some point they're gonna discover it's different disease. I
Mhm.
just I don't
Not entirely, but
know.
like a subcategory.
Like right, like Crohn's, but it's this type, and I mean, they're kind of close to that right now. They do have
Crohn's A2,
but yeah,
Crohn's
yeah, like
A5.
diabetes, you have diabetes type 1 and
Mhm.
type 2. Because if you just said, "I have diabetes," People
Okay,
might
what
think
what
it's
kind?
which one is it? There is a very big difference between type 1 and type 2. And so you could see where if you just said diabetes was one thing, how confusing that could be. So I
Mm,
feel like it's kind of like that with Crohn's in a way. And and also what's interesting is how like people can take Remicade and it works for like 50% of the population, it works beautifully. The other ones it fails.
yes.
So, and it attacks it, it's a TNF blocker. And then you have people, okay, well, let's put them on Stelara, which is an IL-12 and IL-23 interceptor. And that may not work for this part of the population,
Mm,
but then it works for this
that part,
part.
yeah.
And so you're
And then dual
thinking
biologics.
one alone didn't work, but two did. So it was like it was
What was
attacking,
in it came together to
yeah,
create the
like
perfect formula,
two
kind
different
of.
things. And so it's like maybe Crohn's for some people is more severe because it's attacking different ways. And so
Mhm.
maybe for some people it is, so anyways, I it's interesting why biologics will work for some and it won't work for others. And also I think there's also we've talked about in a different podcast, which was where some people like when you were diagnosed, they were like, don't worry, there's Olympic athletes with it. And there are, we'll see stories of professional athletes, of Olympic athletes, of singers, of
Yeah.
performers, entertainers, actors, people who are in the spotlight and their story gets shared.
And
So
so then others will look at that and go, "Well,
yeah,
it will go away." Don't know.
they don't, so they think,
They might be
oh,
looking good on the track, running and
well,
doing good, but
yeah,
what
because
happens after that? What happened before that?
in basketball players, I
Mhm.
mean, the amount of physical fitness it takes to do these things would suggest you're the epitome of strength. And so when you talk about one of these people having Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, I could see how people would assume it's not
It's bad.
that bad,
Mhm.
because they're like, well, look at how good they're doing. But there's a whole other story that they aren't always sharing. And sometimes they have access to medications and treatments and being able to take breaks when they need to. They don't have the same, issues maybe somebody else does with
Mhm.
it. And because, I mean, you see these things, and then I'll read stories. There's people that are on disability permanently with this disease. And there are people, they can't get out of bed and they are missing work. They're unable to work. And there's two sides to the coin here. And so it's just so interesting because I feel like what starts happening is because of that, I feel like blame is placed on the patient.
Mhm.
Like
Which
it
is never
starts to
good.
be like, well, what are you doing that this other person is doing well? What are you doing wrong? And so it's almost like IBD shaming, right?
Mhm.
Like they start shaming, like, well, oh, you must
And
be
that's
eating
that's not
this
gonna
or
help solve.
that.
That's gonna make them more stressed and upset, and then they're gonna go and
Right.
perhaps they might go into a bigger flare. You're gonna hurt their feelings.
Well, yeah, and it's hurtful. That's the main
Mhm.
thing. And you shouldn't ever shame somebody with this
No.
if they are flaring or and I do see it makes me cringe because I will see parents who are angry at their teenager or their child because they're like, well, they're supposed to be eating a certain diet and they want to eat these things and I want them to eat this. And it's like, okay, have you consulted with the doctor on this? Have you consulted with a dietitian, a therapist? Because you have to be very careful. It's just changing their diet is not
Enough.
necessarily going to be enough for them. So you need to work with your medical team. But it makes me sad because the misunderstanding is there and people believe I think they just still get it confused with IBS and think it's like food is the root, you
I
know?
think something that if someone like you just said they're not doing their diet that they're supposed to,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously it's better if you contact a doctor. But
Yes.
I feel like if you're mad at them for not being on that diet, obviously,
Hmm.
usually a diet isn't gonna cure Crohn's or may help it or cover it up.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it's like if when I was on Remicade and it wasn't working for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Why do I need to be on this? Because it's just a shot
Yeah.
it's just a needle I'm getting in my
And you
arm for
weren't
4
feeling
hours.
better.
That isn't helping." And so
Hmm.
I feel like if you're on a diet and that diet is restricting you from some of your favorite foods
Hmm.
and you don't feel like it's doing anything at all, why am I on this diet, you know?
I think it's like it's just important for parents or just adults if you have a friend to remember that there is a human involved in this that is in pain, that is
Mhm.
hungry, that or maybe isn't hungry. And so you don't want to be part of a vicious cycle of like scaring them about food or turning them off food or that can lead to malnutrition and other bigger issues. So So yeah, I mean, with any of these things, it's just important to have a really good medical team. Unless the medical team has said, "Hey, don't smoke and don't drink," and this person is smoking and drinking, that's one thing, but
Mhm,
to blame them because you have your own ideas of how it should be is unfair.
mhm,
It's not right. So, one of the other things, like, because we kind of mentioned diabetes, but even something like cancer, if somebody has cancer, they usually will tell you the type and the stage. So,
yes,
and that, depending on that, it could be treated differently. One may be immunosuppressed, another may not. And if you're doing treatments like Mason, you're on
mhm,
2 biologics every 4 weeks. You're going to have more of a suppressed immune system than somebody else who is on one biologic every 8 weeks. And so you may look and judge somebody else because of your situation without realizing it can be very different. So I think that these categories and these stages are important because we've talked about this before. Crohn's can be mild, can
mm,
be moderate, it can be severe. And the diagnosis when you receive your diagnosis, they'll let you know where you're at. And that's usually what they keep you at. That was always your base level where you started. Mason started at severe and other kids are mild. Some adults are mild. And so it will be treated a little differently. It will be looked at differently. It may appear
mhm.
differently. So I think that's like part of it is just to understand that. And what we also wanted to go over, and these are all on the Crohn's and
Crohn's Foundation.
Colitis Foundation
If you have
website.
any questions, if we didn't cover something you
Check it out.
wanna know, just check out
Everything's
the
on
Crohn's and
there.
Colitis
They've
Foundation. They
got
got everything you
everything.
need.
They do. But I think it was important to mention that, and this is something that we weren't necessarily taught when Mason was diagnosed, but we've since figured out. So because Crohn's can appear in multiple areas in the body, when you're diagnosed, so if you just have it, so like say in the small intestine, that's where your Crohn's is located. I mean, that doesn't mean it will stay there necessarily, but maybe it will for years, but it can appear in other places. But that's ileocolitis. So ileocolitis of yeah,
Ileocolitis.
ileocolitis. And that is the most common form of Crohn's
Mm,
disease. And it affects the end of the small intestine known as the terminal ileum, which a lot of people we mentioned this before,
mhm.
they'll see, you'll go get your scopes and you'll see the report you have terminal ileitis and terminal
When you hear
suggests
ter
can't.
when you hear terminal, that usually means nothing good.
Right? And it's like, "Oh, no." And
Uh,
it's like, no, they're describing the ileum, the end of it, the end of the ileum, not the end of
end
you,
of the alien.
the end of the
Yeah, it's not the
ileum.
end of you.
Yeah, right. So the terminal ileum, and so that's the end of the small intestine. And if you're confused right now and you need a little refresher course, last week we went over the entire digestive system.
Mhm.
So we discussed all these parts. So we'll tell you where they are and what they do in more detail.
Yay.
Feel free. We'll put a link up top for you guys so you can check that out. Ileocolitis, it can affect, so like we said, the end of the small intestine, and it can also affect the large intestine, which is called colon, which we taught you guys also last week.
The large intestine can be called the colon.
Right.
I thought the colon was the end
Like a
of
separate
yeah,
part.
the separate
Like
part.
you had large intestine, then colon.
Colon, yeah. But
Yeah.
apparently the large intestine can also be called the colon.
Yeah.
So
And
when
that's broken down to more parts.
yeah,
So it is
very
interesting,
fun.
right? So you're still learning. It's like
Yeah.
and it's important for you guys
I've
if
had
you
Crohn's for 4 years, which I mean
yeah,
isn't long compared to a lot of
it feels like a
people,
lifetime.
but it feels very long to us,
Yeah.
and we're still learning about it.
Yeah. And it's important to do that
Mhm.
because then it makes sense. So your symptoms when you have ileocolitis, restroom issues,
Mhm.
cramping, pain in the middle or lower right part of the abdomen.
Abdominal pain.
Uh-huh. And so which you experienced and
Mhm.
significant weight loss because those parts of the body
Malnutrition.
are affected by that. So if you have ileitis, that's a type of Crohn's that affects only the ileum.
Okay.
And your symptoms include with that, it's the same as ileocolitis. So you're what we just discussed.
Mhm.
But in severe cases, you can have complications that may include fistulas or inflammatory abscesses in the right lower quadrant of the abdomen. So, and again, I mean, this is on average. I'm sure there's some of you that are going to have variations of this. Like we
Mhm.
just said, it's very
Different
different.
for everyone.
But
Fistulas are never fun though.
yeah, but these are just like the different categories when you're diagnosed, and these can change. You may end up, at one point with ileocolitis and then ileitis at another point. And so The other one that is on there is gastroduodenal Crohn's disease, and that type affects the stomach and the beginning of the small intestine called the duodenum. And
Okay.
that is where you are also affected. Maybe someone only has a mild symptom, and then maybe someone has all of the
All
symptoms.
symptoms.
And so yeah, so like I said, it affects the duodenum.
Mhm.
And some of these symptoms can include nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, and weight loss.
Loss of
And so,
appetite. There we
yeah.
go.
And
Pretty sure that's how it's pronounced.
jejunal
I think we talked about this
the
last
jejunum.
yeah,
So
jejunum.
jejunal is characterized by patchy areas of inflammation in the upper half of the small intestine called the jejunum. And the symptoms for that are mild to intense abdominal pain and cramps following meals.
Mhm.
So that's important. I thought that was important when I read this. So I'll come back to that. Restroom issues again.
Okay.
And fistulas may form in severe cases or after prolonged periods of inflammation. So oh, you know, what I thought was interesting about that, I mean, these are all gonna affect people differently, but with when it's in the jejunum, like they said, you can experience mild to intense abdominal pain and cramps following meals.
Wonder
And
why.
so that could be why some people think food is
It's
causing it
causing the
for
flare.
them because they may, and that's why it's also important to recognize food triggers
Mhm.
because if you have certain things that may cause these. So some people may have pain all the time. Some people may have pain only when they eat certain things or not even just things but like meals and maybe they think whatever they had that night is they can't eat anymore, but maybe it's just
Mhm.
your inflammation in that area.
Would it be for all meals, or would it be specifically for certain types?
So that's
For
what I was
certain
interesting. It didn't
foods?
specify, it
Yeah,
just
because it
said
doesn't
following
specify.
meals. Yeah, but I'm guessing because, we're supposed to track food triggers for all of them,
Mhm.
and it's just to identify like Mason, right now, no food triggers, and
Mhm.
so that's
That's
great.
great.
His inflammation's under control, though, but if you I guess after following meals, like, this is where it can get confusing for some people. That's why it's important to have, like, a food journal,
Mhm.
and we have these food journals on available on Amazon that we created for you guys if you would ever want to use them or whatever. They're super helpful because it will help you track, or if you're introducing new foods, it can help you track symptoms to see what is triggering you so you know. Part of the confusion I think could be because of where your inflammation is. Ultimately, a biologic is supposed to take care of all of these things and
And
help the inflammation in
yeah.
all of them. So
I
that's
wonder if there's any, I mean, obviously there probably is,
mhm,
but I wonder if there is a study going on, like, if they figure out where the inflammation is kind of,
mhm.
and seeing which biologic will work the best for them.
So I do wanna do another episode on precision medicine, and because it's kinda like with that, I think that if they start figuring out, like, where how your Crohn's is, where it's targeted, maybe they can target specific areas.
Mhm.
Now, there's so much research going into this precision medicine, but I think what'll happen is as they get further with precision medicine, they'll probably start discovering like what you had mentioned,
Connections.
there's subcategories.
Yeah.
And there will be connections like with certain people, like maybe group A all responds well to this, group B, group C, group D, and then why? Why did all these different groups respond differently? What did they have in similar in this group A? What did they all have? And so I think there could be like subcategories of Crohn's disease that come out of this and may help better in treating it. So I don't know if it'll be just based on inflammation, but there's gonna probably be other things because how biologics work is they suppress, whatever part of the immune system they're designed to, whether it's
Mhm.
the TNF, the ILs, interleukins, that kind of thing, and they work specifically to shut down, like, that part of the immune system. I mean, again, I'm so sorry, scientists, doctors, if you're listening, I'm doing my best. But, but yeah, and so in doing so, I think it's just interesting how, like, Mason is different than somebody else, like, what his immune system is
Mhm.
triggered by. So I think that'll be part of it too, and part of the categorizing. So yeah, I think that's definitely going to help. So maybe in the future with Crohn's disease, and that'll be our job and everyone else's is to be like ambassadors of it and explain these differences so people start understanding what it is, and you won't get weird looks or people telling you you're going to grow out of it, or, have you considered taking a different vitamin?
A
It's like,
diet.
and there are different things that do work. And so it's like, it's funny because it's kind of like used to seem like a joke, like, oh, yes, these supplements or whatever, but they're working for some people.
Mhm, for some people, not
Right.
everyone.
So it's humbling for me to also learn that and make sure I stay open, because just because Mason is handled this way doesn't mean someone else out there may not be handling it differently, and it doesn't make it wrong. But for us, we trust our medical team,
Mhm,
and we're on a good path. But it is interesting to see what changes may be ahead and how they can treat this. And I think part of that is figuring out Crohn's a little bit more, and categorizing it correctly.
definitely.
And so, yeah, this disease is always changing. And even for the patient, I mean,
Mhm,
for Mason, it's like always changing. And so just keep learning and keep reading and listening to our podcast,
yes.
because if you don't want to read it, we will, and we'll
We'll
help you
read it
guys
for
out.
you.
So, so yeah, just remember, don't judge.
Nope.
And if someone has Crohn's disease, let them tell you about theirs before you tell them what
How
they
to
have
treat it.
and how to treat it. Yeah, it's important to listen. It's like, I'm not going to take people sharing something with me as like, absolutely not. You go away. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, no, you may know what you're talking about with this, and then maybe that's helpful, and maybe it's not. But I
Mhm.
do definitely always like to learn.
Remember to always get your doctor's opinion first, and if you don't like your doctor's
Yeah.
opinion, always get a second opinion from another doctor.
Yeah. And we were actually Mason's doctor. We didn't mention this, but his
Oh,
doctor was with us.
at the gala last night.
Yeah, she finally made it. And so every year she's been trying to make it. One year her daughter was sick, and the other year her husband had his own event that she'd already committed to. So last night we got to see
We got to
her.
see her at the place.
Yeah,
So that was cool.
yeah,
She actually managed to get there today. That
yeah.
night.
So it was,
Last night.
yeah, it was really cool to see her and the nurses. We got to see the
Yes.
nurses. So that was
That's
really
very
fun.
fun.
And so Mason's representing, he's the one representing for Radies. He's there. He's the kid that is kind of you're kind of growing up in front of them. I
Mhm.
think some people now they're like, I remember when he was 12 years old
Like,
and now he's 15, and it's pretty cool because now people are seeing his
stay
growth.
15. Stay 15.
Well, they can see now you're off prednisone,
Mhm.
how you're looking different, you're getting a little taller, and your hair has changed a lot.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, he had longer hair, but it never looked like this. And
No, it wasn't as thick and
no, so just it's been exciting that every year we're going to these now. This was our fourth gala, and it's kind of exciting because we've now made a lot of friends, and you feel like you get to reunite and share Mason's update, and then you meet really
Mhm.
cool people. Like, oh
Yes,
my
very
gosh,
cool people.
like so impressive. And I feel like I'm so lucky to even be talking to you. Like, this is,
Like, how did we get here?
yeah, it's amazing. The people, so just if you're listening to this and you're feeling frustrated, just know, like, we talk about these galas, but last night $500,000 was raised. So,
500,000.
and that's just our chapter. That's in San Diego.
And there's more going on. There's
There
more than
are.
that.
And so it's not just about, dressing up and eating food and, sitting at these fancy tables. It's, the people that are there are these incredible people. And whenever we meet them, it's like, what do you do? Oh my gosh. Wow. That's what you're doing in life and changing the world. And they're there to support, you guys that can't see it, that it's just all behind the scenes stuff going on that we're seeing and sharing with you, because it's
It's
important not to
very
give up.
reassuring to see.
It is. It is. It's like there's these people that really care, and you'll watch somebody bid $25,000 just to donate. And
It's so cool.
yeah, I'm in awe, like, that we get to even share a
And
room.
yeah, just be there and
Y-
talk.
Yeah, and it's incredible. So it's very inspirational. People are excited to help you guys, and I think that is so important for you to know, is
Mhm.
that there is active work going on. We got to meet scientists last night that are working on we know all this stuff that we give. It's just like, oh my gosh, I want to share it with you all.
So you
So,
yeah.
and the things that are coming down the road are really promising.
Mhm.
And so I think it's important for y'all to know. So that's that. And if you guys want to see pictures, we didn't get a lot of pictures last night.
But we got
But we got
some,
some, so
yeah.
you can see that. You can also see our pictures at Club 33 if you would like.
Mhm.
It was Haunted
Very fun.
Mansion.
Oh, yes, the
So
theme was very cool this year.
yeah, it was pretty amazing. Or if you want to see our trip to Cambria, see what
Mhm.
that's like, that was super cool. So we have all that posted. That's at Team IB Determined on Instagram, We also posted a new Reggie post. So Reggie visited Harvey Street Beach. That's in we
Harvey
found it.
Street Beach.
And we're like, well, we got to go there. That was in Cambria.
We had to.
So yes, that was amazing. So he made an appearance. So you can check the Reggie project and again share your own pictures with
Mhm.
Reggie.
We love to
Please
see
do.
him.
We would love to add them and kind of get that idea to take off and support you guys in that way. And then you can always listen to us on any podcast station. Some of them are Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube.
Mhm. And, there are YouTube podcasts, and
Right.
and there will be more linked to Buzzsprout, which we'll have in the
Right.
description.
Because there's plenty more places to
Mhm.
listen.
A lot more places. But as for YouTube podcasts, that's somewhat newer. But if you do want to watch us and listen to us, you can go to the normal YouTube videos.
Yep.
And if you are already watching us or listening to us on the YouTube podcast, make
Yeah.
sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a new video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep coming out with new stuff,
Mhm.
and it's
Please leave
exciting.
comments too.
We have people that do wanna guest on and appear on here,
Yeah,
and so
with them
it just
being
takes for us I wanna make sure we have the right questions,
yes.
and so, that's just making sure we wanna make sure we ask everything we can think of, so when we're prepared, we will have somebody on. I don't just
Mhm.
wanna have somebody on here and just ask them their favorite color and
And
what they like to eat and
yeah.
where their favorite place to go is, like, I wanna have some relevant stuff for you guys, so we're working on that, and that's kind of exciting. I'm
Mhm.
very excited
And
about
if
that.
you have any ideas for any questions you want us to
Just
ask,
throw it in here,
yeah, just throw it in
give us a
here and we'll
comment.
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You might have your question asked.
yeah, so just feel free to post and let us
Mhm.
know. So, that's about it. Hope you
Yes.
guys are all doing well out there. I hope
Yes, I hope
nobody's
you're
in a
doing great.
flare, and I
And if
hope
you are, I hope you get out of it
hope you're
soon.
out of it soon, and we get it. So,
Yeah.
it's tough for I mean, it's worse for you, but
Yes.
it is tough for
Yes.
the caregiver and the parent too.
Yeah. Because
It
it
is.
takes energy and time from everyone.
Right. It's yeah, it's hard to watch people go through something like
Yeah.
this. It really is.
Because it's
So,
sad. Well, because you can't help. I mean, you can try your best, but it's not like you can say, "Go away, Crohn's disease." Just
right.
stop being in this flare.
Yeah.
Can't do that. You just kinda gotta do your best and help.
Yeah. Stay strong
Mhm.
together. So, we're here for you guys and reach
Yes.
out to us if we can be of any support, let us know. So, otherwise, we'll be back in 2
2
weeks
weeks, yep,
with a new episode and we will see
episode.
you guys then. So,
And have a good day, have a good weekend, have a good invisible, disease week.
awareness.
Yeah, disease
Yes.
awareness
Yes.
week.
Good
Mhm.
job. Yeah, exactly.
And make sure to donate to Crohn's and Clouds Foundation or
Or
help
yeah, or
or
anything else
anything, yeah.
that maybe
Wanna
you
help
care about.
support,
Yeah, and maybe
yeah,
wish somebody who you know who has an invisible disease, maybe say hi to give them a call, send them a text,
yes.
send them a message, give
Reassure
them a
them,
hug,
make them feel better.
Yeah, let them know you're thinking about them because
Yes,
it's difficult
it's
and
tough.
for a lot of you guys out there. So, anyways, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks
Yep,
on the
next
next episode.
episode. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.